Well guys, fall is really in the air now. We have had an absolutely crazy amount of acorns and other seeds. Here in Michigan, we are apparently in what's called a seed mast year, when a bunch of different weather conditions and tree production cycles kind of coincide to make for a huge seed yield. There's folklore that claims that, a seed mast is a sign of a really hard winter. I've heard that from a number of places. I'll have to see what the Farmer's Almanac says for this year, but it could be the case. It could be the case. But we just have a crazy number of acorns and other seeds on the ground. Additionally, something kind of funny that I was gonna do a video on, and I couldn't do it because I'll tell you why. So I was pretty excited to get a 30-pound bag of black walnuts from my sister's house. Black walnuts they do grow in our area, and we've got a couple down the street, and I think there's one on our property, but it's still young yet, so it's not producing nuts. But I was very excited to have a whole bag of walnuts in the hulls from my sister. I brought that garbage bag back and I set it on the side patio. Not 24 hours later, folks, every last nut in that bag was gone. It was gone. The squirrels smelled them. They came out after them. They came right up to the side of the house, helped themselves inside the bag, and some of them chewed the nuts out of the hull right there, and others just made off with the whole dang thing. Anyway, that was kind of funny. So I did not get to do a black walnut processing video because the squirrels have distributed our black walnuts instead of me planting them myself. So thanks, or no thanks, to the squirrels. Yep. Everybody, for it being October, we really do not have much color here in Michigan. Not in lower Michigan anyway, maybe a little bit more up north, but usually our trees are getting to be pretty brightly colored now, and I'm kind of disappointed. Our red maple up in the front here, it's like a little bit dark purple, maybe halfway. Our other maple by the barn is usually bright yellow about this time. It'll get there. It'll get there. I have confidence. Gotta be patient sometimes. But the thing that I'm really looking forward to is the same thing I say every year when the oaks start to turn. That burnt umber, sort of deep brownish and yellowish tones. That's what really gets me in the mood for fall. And I love it every year, and I feel very blessed to have big mature oak trees all around us. As for a quick fall garden update, we've got a hot mess here, folks. Look at that. My zucchino rampicante has meandered its way right out of the garden. We've got some last minute squashes set in here. I've got my volunteer tomatoes doing pretty good here. She's probably going to be the last one standing. And this Malabar spinach continues to just blow my mind. I've just loved it. Then we've got a huge leaf. I think this is a sycamore. I'm not the greatest at tree ID, but we've got this tall lady right here. I think that's where those leaves are coming from. It's kind of nice because you only need a few to mulch an area. They're so big. Let's go just do a quick garden tour. So this hardy hibiscus here is still putting on blooms. I'm so shocked. She's still going. This really had a lot of bang for its buck in the color department. I am gonna move this girl though. Not totally sure where I'm gonna put her yet, but she's not gonna stay here. This here is gonna be a rose arbor next year. So we're gonna have the arbor going over the entrance there. And I do have a rose planted in here. Now, my garden, guys, my garden's crazy. I mean, look at this. It's really not very well maintained. And to be totally honest, I haven't been feeling very well. I actually spent part of the weekend in the hospital. I'm okay, but just haven't been feeling well. Hopefully that can get figured out, but as a result, my poor garden has suffered, and really it's suffered ever since this summer when we lost Victoria. I just kind of, you know, sometimes your heart's not in stuff when bad things happen, and my garden has really, it's really suffered, but it's also been very forgiving. And you'll see, I did start some fall things a while back, but let's take a look. So I've got chamomile that's rocking, and these chives have already been cut a couple of times, but they are just glorious. Big old clump of chives. Enough to dry for years. Our basil is just about done. She's bolted out, starting to get a pretty bitter flavor. And check it out. I've got some Malabar spinach, red Malabar spinach that's late to the party here. Got a couple of plants. So I'm just gonna let that go and see how long it can last. It probably will not tolerate frost though, just because the region where it's from, which is India, I believe. Oh, and I do have some dill that survived the creeping Charlie. See, this creeping Charlie is really what gets us. This is by far our biggest garden weed. So I've got some work to do in here. Oh wow, the feverfew. I'm gonna move this feverfew as well. Does not need to be in my food garden. We'll put it over by my medicinal garden, which I'll do another video on. Another one of these beautiful leaves. Alright, the rest of this is oregano. Holy oregano. This is turning into a bush. I've even cut it a few times back this summer. Alright, time to reseed the arugula. We've got some bolting happening. And that's going to be real bitter, so I'm not even going to try to eat that. A randomly placed leek, I don't know why it's there. I have lettuce in here, but I planted it maybe a little bit too early. Yep. That's all my leeks. Alright, I gotta move that wheelbarrow full of water. I've got kohlrabi here, lettuce, and these are Brussels sprouts from last year. Or no, these are Brussels sprouts from this year. They look kind of terrible, but we'll see how they go. got my turnips, some of which are ready in this area. Okay, now we're around the back side. That beautiful, I think that's 5-colored silver beet, or 5-colored Swiss chard. And kale, beautiful kale, which is delicious when it gets cold. It gets really sweet and yummy. Oh, I got some volunteer fungi again. More Swiss chard. I just love Swiss chard. It's my absolute favorite. I had a whole bunch of kale and things here. That's barely come up. That'll continue to grow for a while though. And my walking stick kale, which never did much. And I think that's because I've got this half whiskey barrel kind of blocking the sunlight, so I'll have to relocate that because that'll live into next year. Alright, you know the story of what happened with my tomatoes, so I'm not gonna explain about that. But we never did fix the tomato trellis. We figured we're almost done anyway, why bother? But we did sprinkle some turnips down in front here, and there's the random onion or two. Okay, I've got several beets coming up. The Cylindra beets really didn't do well. I'll have to reseed those, but the Detroit Reds did. I'm gonna thin those out, space them some. And these are golden beets. I'm excited to try these. I've never grown these before. I've got more turnips. Got some winter carrots coming through here. I've got to pull all this stuff out here. And my one celery plant's still hanging on. And the borage, which I put in a really terrible spot. But look at all these bees. These are more than likely our honeybees. Here's our garlic. And our Brussels sprouts are recovering from pest damage. See the new growth at the top there? Yeah, those will be just fine. And I've got the Italian soft neck garlic in here. And I don't know if we will have time to set fruit on these babies. Like I said before, I planted them just a little bit on the late side. So more than likely we will not get anything from them. And the cucumber that I had here is really not doing much because it's just getting too cold and not enough sunlight at this point. The eggplants, the plants still look good, but the rest of these I'm saving for seed, like this one down here. And then I've got just a bunch of peppers to pick. And then really the only other thing is the potato bed here, the volunteer potato bed. I've got this zucchini reserved for seed here, and there's another very large one back in there. Not that I need that much zucchini seed. And this bed's just kind of a mess. Volunteer tomatoes and whatever else. So I'm gonna come back with a basket for these peppers.